Time for Ask the Mayor, our weekly program with Mayor Bob Morgan. Good morning, Bob.
Doug, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. You know, a beautiful day yesterday.
Oh,
Might have
yeah.
a little bit of stuff today,
Yeah.
but it'll be nice for the weekend.
Still no snow budget being taken up here lately. What a mild winter so far.
You know, really, it's been what? It's been wonderful. We've had 1-2 inch snow where
Yeah.
just the emergency routes get plowed, and then I think we had a little bit more that one time, so we did the residential streets. So, yeah, that's only twice in one winter. That's pretty good.
Some salt or sand or de-icing material, but that's been about it for the most part.
That's
a lot
it,
of times.
yeah.
Well, first things first today, who's going to win the Super Bowl? I think I know your answer.
A little birdie told me you were going to ask me that question. Well, you know, being a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I'm hoping the Kansas City Chiefs will. But, you know, in a way, when Kelly and I talked about it, we really feel like we're in a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Because if the Chiefs win, we'll be ecstatic. But on the other side of the coin, if the Philadelphia Eagles join, Cam Jurgens from Beatrice is on there, so we'll be ecstatic there too. So for us, it's kind of going to be a fun, exciting football game to watch because, you know, we definitely been with the Chiefs for many, many years, but we also have somebody from Beatrice that will be playing, or at least on the sidelines, and probably get in to play because, you know, he's done a nice job.
The Super Bowl ring in your rookie year would be pretty good, I'd say.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. Can you imagine the discussions going on in the Kelsey family?
Oh, I know.
I mean, you got two people in there. Who do you root for?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
It should be a good game, I think. I'm predicting close, but I don't know. Maybe
I am
not.
too. You know, I think it's like everything in football. It just depends on the health of both sides. I mean, you know, one injury can really make a difference, whether it's on the Eagles side or the Chiefs side.
So you're saying Mahomes' high ankle sprain should be okay?
Yes.
It should be. You're banking on that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move to some discussion of city issues here. One of the big things on Monday night, you have a request out there led by a councilman, Tim Fralin. He's gotten some feedback from people who would like to see utility vehicles, all-terrain vehicles, allowed on city streets. He had the first meeting of it where he did get some public input on it. After hearing just the initial discussion of it, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, first of all, I do appreciate the public input because sometimes we'll sit there and discuss as a council and not have a lot of public input or not have anybody there. And so, first of all, I really thank the folks that came in and in this case, spoke in favor of it. I think the other thing that I really liked about that group and, you know, even Councilman Fralin, they did their homework. They didn't just come in and say, hey, let's put this on the agenda or let's do an ordinance to put UTVs and ATVs on the road. They went out and took a look at what the state statute requires, and then they took a look at some of the communities that have already enacted something for ATV, UTVs. And so the discussion was based a lot on fact versus just emotion and what one person wants to do.
Yeah. What about, and it was discussed partly that cities have some, I mean, beyond the state regulations for use of those vehicles on the streets, you have some power over what to do. Is there anything specifically, do you think, if a city did allow it, might be the best steps to take, in addition to the state requirements such as headlights, taillights, muffler, insurance, that type of thing? Well,
I think we got to take a look at a number of things. You know, first of all, the difference between a UTV and an ATV.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some different requirements, whether it's an ATV or a UTV. I mean, you know, the point was made for the utility vehicle. You know, it's really kind of more enclosed. Certainly has about as many features and
certainly
pieces.
costs
About the same as a small car, and so there are some differences there that I'm sure the traffic committee will take a look at. Through state statute, though, I think there's a number of things though that are already in place. I mean, you have to have a driver's license, so you have to be at least 16. It has to have the headlights and the taillights. It defines hours of operation. From sun up to sundown, which is, again, that's kind of nice because I think one of the things that people will say is, well, gee, you know, I don't want to hear the UTV going past my house at midnight. Well, the state, you know, statute spells out the time. I think, you know, I think we would want to take a look at least some type of registration process, not a very expensive process. I look at it a little bit like maybe boat. You know, if you have a boat, you have to register it with the sticker for 3 years, and I think it's about $20 a year or something like that. And so that sticker really says, hey, yeah, it's licensed and approved in the city.
You have a situation in town here where you have 2 U.S. highways splitting the town into basically 4 major sections, and you can't, as it stands right now, you can't take a UTV or ATV down one of those.
Right.
I mean, for some distance.
Yes, and that's not Beatrice's requirement if we would go that way. That's the state's requirement. They do have to stay off the highways, or if they want to cross the highway, it has to be at a 90-degree angle. And so that does give some limitations to where they can be used. And so I think you have to consider that limitation as well. But I think the positive thing about it is if we would come out of traffic committee, and if it would be approved, there's at least some parameters in place on how to use them, which there isn't today.
At least one councilman expressed some concern about the overall safety of them. But, I got to thinking about it afterward. I've seen some electric vehicles that are basically almost like a golf cart in size, and they're allowed on streets right now. Do you kind of come back and say, well, if you're not allowing these, why would those be allowed?
Yeah, and those are the things the traffic committee is going to have to sort out. And if something comes out to recommend the use of them based on the requirements, I fully expect another good discussion from all of the councilmen and other people in the community.
I'm taking it that don't expect a decision in the next month or so. It'll take a while for the committee to kind of go through things and.
Right, the committee is going to have to take a look at those things, and I think getting the traffic committee together for that particular issue, and then I know during the 7th Street, 8th Street conversation, there was some talk about speed and parking. And so there's a couple of good topics that I think need to go to the traffic committee and have them come back and advise us.
What's your thought on bigger city versus smaller city use of them? Because you go around to a lot of villages and towns around here, let's say towns of anywhere from 3,000 to say maybe 6,000, 7,000, you see them in use. But, does the amount of traffic overall, does that play a factor in whether or not they ought to be allowed or what?
Well, I think you have to consider that, yes, from a safety standpoint. If you look at the city of Beatrice, because it is split up because of the highways, a lot of the main traffic is on the highways. And so you're really talking about more of a residential area. But again, residential area, you have, kids playing that you want to make sure they're safe, and, animals and walkers and pedestrians. So, I think that it's going to be good to see what the traffic committee says.
Yeah. Arterial streets, too, are major things like Lincoln, Ella, Market, maybe Dorsey to some extent. I don't know, does that factor in at all, or as far as travel? Or
Yeah, it might, because certainly they carry more traffic. Yeah. And it's just, again, one of those things that we'll have to take a look at and see what the recommendation is.
Okay. A couple of Beatrice Plus projects were approved by the City Council on your consent agenda Monday night. One has to do with municipal auditorium scoreboards. They got to work out recently with the UDECAS tournament, as they do every year. Are those pretty old? They've been in there for a while?
Yes. Those have been there for a number of years. I can't tell you exactly how many, but they are to the point where they do need replaced. I do believe there was one foundation that also chipped in money for the scoreboards, because I think the request was $10,000 for the scoreboards. And even from the college, I can tell you that a scoreboard is more than $10,000 by the time you get it installed. So, it's going to enhance the auditorium, and there's features that'll be on the new scoreboard there probably wasn't on the old scoreboard, because there are different requirements. And I think we've always done a really good job trying to host MEDECAS.
I take it they'd probably be in the same place, just more up to date, newer.
I would guess so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So a big tournament. I know it brings a lot of people into town, and it's kind of a neat event, really, for the area.
It is, and I think what they say, it's one of the longest running tournaments, probably in the nation.
Yeah.
And so, it's always good to have things that bring traffic to the community, and even if they don't do anything else but fill up the vehicle and go out to eat, they're at least helping the city of Beatrice.
Yeah. When you were at the college, did you host some of those games out at Truman? I was trying to think, or is it still the case out there?
We did. No, we don't. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not out there, but
I was thinking they used that site at one time.
What really happened? We hosted up through COVID.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, there was all kinds of rules and regulations that we were trying to protect, even our student athletes, and it really became unavailable for use during the volleyball and the basketball season because of practice and other restrictions. And I think they found alternative locations, and which in a lot of respects, with the men and the women trying to play basketball, it did affect their ability to practice. But we also looked at it as being good stewards and citizens to help those schools, because they do a nice job.
Yeah. It's kind of a recruiting thing too for the school.
It was. Yeah. It really was. It got young people on our campus that might decide to come to campus. So it was, and it's one of those casualties of COVID.
Yeah, that's for sure. The other Beatrice Plus grant for Hannibal Park, I didn't see what that was for. Is that just access improvements or ball field or
a ball field and access?
Okay.
I think they're widening one of the fields out, or distances between the couple of fields. And again, Hannibal's a really, really nice complex, and I think it's just for enhancements there.
Home of the Lady Orange, nice field out there for that, too.
It is.
Very nice facility there that was dedicated just this past, or kind of ribbon cut or whatever this past year. So,
yeah. It's very, very nice.
Okay. Bob Morgan, Mayor of Beatrice, with us today on Ask the Mayor. We'll have more in a moment. Back on Ask the Mayor today with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Had a couple of resolutions dealing with the airport on Monday night. I assume this is just kind of continuation of the change in governance from the authority board to the city itself.
Yes. Originally when you had the airport authority, they were operating under their authority, and then now that it's an airport advisory board, they're operating under, the city's authority. And, we had all of our ducks in a row, and then when we started applying for federal funding for the aprons and those type of projects, they came back and said, "Oh, wait a minute, we're not sure what we need, but we need more paperwork."
Yeah.
And so
imagine that.
Yeah.
At the federal.
So city administration worked on that and brought those resolutions to us to, hopefully put us in the right place, or at least that's what they want at this point in time. And if they want something different after we submit those forms, we'll go back to the drawing board. But that's kind of where we're at there.
It's an adjustment process for all, I suppose.
It is. And it's a good adjustment. One of the great benefits with the airport authority or the airport advisory committee, in some respects, they're going to start building their own budget, and there might be some enhancements that will come out of the city to help the airport. So I'm looking for a bright future for the airport.
Had you seen any interest yet on the request for proposals, I guess, in terms of, maintenance projects or taking care of the facility? I know it's early yet.
It's early,
but had there been any companies interested in that to this point?
To that, I really don't know.
Okay.
I have a meeting with Tobias a little later today, and that will be one of the questions I'll ask him.
All right. Another topic of the Monday night meeting was Pinpoint Communications, a Cambridge-based firm that is undertaking an all-fiber project in Beatrice. Kind of affects, private sector, public sector. From the city side, quite a few buildings, quite a few facilities you have would be, interconnected through this?
There would, So when Pinpoint came to us, we were excited about that. I mean, we've tried, one of the things we really wanted to do is we, tried for years to get fiber to every home in Beatrice, and that's been a goal for, I think, at least the 2 terms that I was a council member, and then now as mayor. I firmly believe that's, as I thought about the Monday night meeting, we had, a couple of good discussion points. But really the star of the evening was probably Pinpoint, and being able to have a company that, will have a presence here in Beatrice and really has done a good job in the smaller communities getting fiber into homes. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's going to give, the city a great opportunity and our residents a great opportunity to figure out what, internet speed they want with fiber. And as I looked at Nebraska City, which is one of Pinpoint's locations, you could get, I think it's 100 meg or a 200 meg or even a 1 gigabyte internet fiber into whether it's your home or your business. And so, as more and more things go to internet and streaming base, that speed is just so important.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, we've got a company who I believe has already purchased a building. They're going to have a project manager, and they're going to have some staff, here in Beatrice. The city gets a 2% franchise fee that comes from them coming in the community, and that's the same type of franchise fee we have with Windstream and that we have with Spectrum. And certainly, over the years, I think Windstream and Spectrum probably did their cost analysis and their size, and I don't know the ins and outs of that, but they didn't seem like they wanted to step up and do that for the city, which you have to figure out what they want to be as a business, and I appreciate them both being in Beatrice and doing a good job. In this case, Pinpoint said, what, we can do this, and we would like to do it. So, they'll be here this spring, and they'll start. I think what we talked about on Monday night, they'll start doing it in quadrants or sections. So, I think it'll take them probably a good year to 18 months to get everything completed, but that's probably not that long, except for some of us that we're hoping for higher speed internet. Like, what quadrant am I in?
Yeah, really. Well, it being a non-exclusive arrangement too, you don't usually, though. It almost seems like it's first in is the one that you're going to get, because the company that makes a commitment and thinks they can do it. Do you often, I guess, on arrangements like that, you look at cable television, for instance. We've had Spectrum, or it used to be Charter for many, many years, but you never really saw other interests come in at that point.
Well, yeah, it's open. So, for instance, I think what the county's using NextLink as they set up their fiber throughout the county. They certainly, if decided, they could set up an operation and put in their infrastructure as well under the same rules. I mean, we still expect the franchise fee, and we'd still expect them to hook up to the city buildings, for free there. But we'll see. It's amazing. Well, for you and I, if you look at the transition of television from when we grew up to now, it used to be that cable was the thing, and then it was cable, and then the dish and DirecTVs. Yeah. And now with streaming, it really has become more of an internet type of thing for your television. Yeah. There's some downsides when the internet's not working, you don't have TV, but on the other side of the coin, they've kind of found their niche in the streaming media.
Well, fiber and broadband, now you're seeing a big discussion, too, about, in fact, it's a legislative topic this week in committee, is overbuild. When do some companies start crossing into other companies' area where they've already had projects going, and how do you all sort that out? So with technology comes a few of those, I don't want to say confrontations, but you got to work out a few things, too.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yes. So it'll be interesting to see, and again, it's just progress. I mean, like I said, I joke, but, I remember buying a TV, I think, gosh, my mom and dad did. There was first of all, there was no such thing as a remote. Yeah. And then as you got a little later in life, the remote cost you an extra $100. Yeah. And now you get a flat screen TV for less than what I paid for a 26-inch console, and the remote comes with it. Yeah.
Bring back the dialer phone. I always kind of like that. Shows you how old I am. So we'll be back with more on Ask the Mayor with Bob Morgan in just a moment to finish up our program today. We have just a few minutes left on Ask the Mayor today with Mayor Bob Morgan. You can call us anytime, by the way, with a question during the week. We'll pass it along on our next show here at KWBE. One of the things Monday night, you have quarterly reports every now and then. You had a couple of quarterly reports from Main Street, Beatrice, and Gage Area Growth Enterprise, or Engage. One of the topics that came up was contract with the executive director of the Main Street organization. Has that been on a calendar year, or has that been on your fiscal year? I can't
It's on our fiscal year. Okay. And last year we provided up to $30,000 worth of assistance to Main Street, and it was goal-driven. So not everything that they do is reimbursable for up to that 30,000. Some aren't. It's on a year-to-year basis, and I know Michael has done a great job, and I know he was busy, and so that didn't come up to us in September, and so he's put together a proposal for this year, and we'll probably take a look at that in the very, very near future.
Well, that being that you have a 2-year budget coming up by the city, is there any thought toward keeping that still just year by year, or do you go match it with the budget, or what?
Well, last year was the first year that we did the 30,000. Now, granted, the city has always, participated and helped fund some of the things that Main Street does, and they, probably remember they'd bring a proposal for maybe the, Night of the Great Pumpkin or one of those type of things. So it's always been, this is kind of be combined. So since last year was the first year, we wanted to see how it worked. And so we were evaluating that ourselves. That's why it was a 1 year. Probably because we were moving forward again through the second year, it will be another 1 year, and then we can have a discussion if it's longer.
Yeah. Well, one kind of appearance recreational feature that was discussed Monday night was, do you bring back the waterfall at Chautauqua Park? Some years ago, it was tried with a system that would pull water from, I guess, what most people know as the duck pond out there. Or that didn't quite work out due to flooding, which happens occasionally on the Big Blue River, and that just kind of went by the wayside for a while. Now you have a suggestion out there of maybe a system that's more kind of in one area. It circulates water, not cheap by any means, and you have to, of course, consider this along with any other priority that you have.
We do. I mean, we always look for ways that we can enhance our parks and our trails and those type of things, and this certainly would be a nice enhancement. I think historically over the last year and a half, I think there's been a couple of committees that have tried to raise some money. I think the individuals that are now working on the fundraising from the citizens' perspective have done a good job of working with Gage County Foundation. I think what they were hoping for, and I saw a lot of traction from all the other city councilmen, was at least some type of assistance from the city so that folks know what's going to get done. And I think there's a lot of interest in getting the waterfall going and getting it done correctly.
As far as the sources of public funding, there were a few mentioned. Do you have a preference one way or the other on that, if you were to go this route?
I don't. And the reason I don't is because I truly believe the city administrator, and of course, Hannah is the chief finance officer for the city. I think, they have done a really good job over the past, number of years with knowing where this money can come from or that money can come from to help make a project successful without hurting another project.
Yeah.
And so, you really have to take a look. If it's $100,000, where do we have that? Where can we take it? And where does it not affect another project that's on the list?
Is it possible to use a combination like lodging revenue, Beatrice Plus, whatever, Keno?
I would guess that's an option.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I'm sure they're taking a look at right now. So.
One project going on. I know there was some Facebook comment about a little bit going on here just recently, is doing some water line work on Lincoln Street this week. That's in conjunction with the new school project out there. It's not that you can't get to Beatrice State Developmental Center. You just, for a couple of days, you'll be taking a little bit different route there. So.
Right. I mean, those are the tough things. When you have a building project like that, you certainly have to figure out how to get water to their location. We're getting into that time come March where there's going to be a lot of little projects that will crop up that will affect a couple of blocks here and there. And, I think the city always tries to do a really good job of letting people know, but sometimes it's short notice. Yeah. And for that, I always apologize for that inconvenience. When you got and I would imagine as you look at the scope and the size of the new elementary, there's going to be some times where traffic will be disrupted until it's done. Yeah. And so we'll keep working with the school and we'll keep working with the community to make sure it's safe and make sure that we have as small of closings as possible.
I'll ask you the question again that I probably already asked you 3 or 4 times, and it came up again at the public forum part of the council meeting Monday night. The whole arrangement between the school and the city regarding Lincoln. Any update on the discussions there, or what might be possible there?
Again, we have not had that conversation with the city. I think the last conversations we had were basically trying to get things in line so they could pour the footings and keep the building permit process going. I think that's where their focus has been. So hopefully soon we'll start having those conversations again.
That Safe Roads planning grant you recently got, the up to $200,000. Might that have some potential tie to this all, or I don't know? Is it too early to tell on that?
It does have a tie to this project. Okay. You know, the hard part about the $200,000 planning grant was just that we have to develop a planning grant, for it. And then we can apply for some infrastructure funding that has been out there from President Biden. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the school, it is one, especially Safe Roads. Yeah. It really has the potential to hopefully score higher than other projects. Yeah. And the positive of that is if we would get a sizable safety grant, whatever money we would possibly have to spend there, we can spend other places. Yeah. And so it really helps other projects as well. I think once we get the planning study done, we're going to put in for a number of projects because the money's there. It's going to go to some community, and we just soon have it come to ours.
You already have recreational trail access out to that site, but you could kind of envision that maybe encircling the site or something, or maybe
it could. Yeah, it could. Yeah. I mean, once you talk about inside the property, those are part of what Beatrice Public Schools will have to kind of develop what they want.
Yeah. Okay. Bob, thanks very much for coming in again.
All right. Thank you.